I absolutely love a good double oaked bourbon. So does that mean I'm gonna love a double oaked rye? I picked up a bottle of Sagamore Spirit Double Oak to find out. So let's get to it. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch, and thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So that's right, today we are taking a look at Sagamore Spirit Double Oak. So this is a rye whiskey, but finished in a second toasted oak barrel. So I love, like I said in that little intro, I really love a good double oaked bourbon. I mean, 1910 from Old Forester is one of my favorites. Woodford Double Oaked, absolutely love that. Brings such a good extra layer of sweetness and sort of candy-like quality for those two especially. And I've explored a little bit of the world of rye and had some good and not so great finds there. So I was really, eager to see if a double oaked rye would really hit my palate and sort of expand my view of the world of rye whiskey. So this bottle itself, the Sagamore Spirit Double Oak, this was one that was highly recommended to me by you guys, the viewers of the channel, on one of my videos where I asked basically for recommendations on what to buy next in the world of rye whiskey. So this didn't end up winning out, but it was a close second to the High West Double Rye. So I have gone out and got a bottle of it, eager to try it. I mean, it's got 96 points according to some tasting panel here. It's, by all accounts, a very, very good whiskey. Let's take a look at the stats on this bottle itself. So for Sagamore Spirit Double Oak, we are looking at a 96.6 proof rye whiskey, which is 48.3% alcohol. This is a mix of, I believe, their own distillate over at Sagamore Spirit and some MGP sourced product. So when they first got started in 2015, Sagamore was, basically sourcing all their stuff from MGP. There would be a mix in this product of both high rye stuff from MGP and low rye stuff from MGP. Since 2017, Sagamore Spirit has been using their own distillate, getting that ready, aging that. They don't have the quantity to make all their own product yet, so they're still working with MGP, which is now Ross and Squibb, but I'm just gonna keep calling it MGP. And anyway, I believe this is now a mix of both their own stuff and some MGP stuff. So it's still a mix of like high rye and low rye mash bills, all blended together and then put in a second charred oak barrel, toasted barrel, and given this double oak feature. So in terms of age, we are looking at something that doesn't have an age statement on the bottle, but is thought to be 4 years old or older, but probably right around that 4-year-old mark is some of the youngest stuff in here. And last thing I think worth commenting on here is just the bottle itself. I mean, this thing is gorgeous in its presentation. Great gold and blue, clear Maryland Pride from a distillery down in Baltimore, which makes a lot of sense. And just, I mean, the diamond shape here is really unique. There's just so much going for this bottle that really makes it pop out on the shelves and is totally wonderful to have on your shelf too. All right, now that is more than enough on the stats and background of this whiskey, why I got it, all that stuff. Let's get into the nose palate finish here and really look at what comes out of the bottle itself. Before we do that, do just want to say that if you like Sagamore Spirit, especially the Double Oak, smash that like button. If you like all the content coming out of the channel, hit that subscribe button. Really helps grow the channel, but it also helps me know what specific kind of content to keep creating for you guys. All right, let's get into the nose, palate, and finish now. On the nose. Okay, so there's a good rye presence for sure, a good spiciness. Pretty herbal, so like earthy tones coming through. And then there's a good layer of like citrus, like good vanilla, good lemon as the citrus quality coming through. And then I think with that rye breadiness, there's almost like a short cookie or shortbread cookie or like a just a sugar cookie, like something a little doughy and sweet. But there's a heck of a lot of that rye herbal citrus going on too. And then I think there is like there's a good sweet oak layer underneath, but it's not super prominent for me. When I first got this bottle, I thought that the lemon and herbalness smelled a little bit more like Pledge cleaner, like it had a more alcohol ethanol forward citrusy that didn't sit well with me, but now that it's had some time to open up, a lot of that alcohol burn has sort of calmed down, or that ethanol fumes, and I've gotten a lot more of just a vanilla shortbread cookie citrus kind of experience, which is great. So let's get into the palate now. Cheers, everybody. It is an interesting experience for sure. The two words that first came to mind were rich and fresh, which don't necessarily go together, I guess, but for me it's this like caramel toffee sort of experience on the mid to back palate, but on the front palate it is bright and fresh with like citrus, almost a floral and herbal explosion, and then on the finish it goes back toward that like lemon citrus zestiness. So it's like floral, herbal, citrusy, and fresh and bright. Then it goes a little darker with caramel, oak, and toffee, and then it circles back to this like lingering freshness that sort of just blooms in your mouth, sits on your tongue. I mean, it's a kind of interesting progression there. I will say that freshness there and that floral herbal quality for me, it still has a little tinge of that like Pledge Cleaner note. That isn't my favorite, doesn't sit perfectly with me, but it's certainly become more muted over time, and it's not something that I think ruins this whiskey for me. It's just a note there in the background that I struggle with a little bit. Other than that, everything else here is really, really good. And so if you get your own bottle, or if you have your bottle and you don't get that sort of like Pledge Cleaner note, good on you. I'm sure that this is firing on all cylinders for you too. All right, let's go back in for a second sip now and sort of pick out some new flavors if we can. Cheers again. Okay, so that was a longer developing experience, but one thing I noted that came out and was more prominent in that sip was sort of just this bold baking spice and rye spice kind of experience. Good cinnamon there, almost like just fresh rye bread cracked open, and that sort of first overwhelming spice that can kick up from rye bread, that was present there too. I thought that the toffee note came in a little bit later, and that vanilla and caramel and toffee note sticks around for a little bit longer, and then it does go back to that freshness. And again, on the front of the palate, I just get this like interesting sweetness and floral herbal kind of combination that is just so bright and fresh. Let's go back in now for a third sip. Really focus on the finish there because it is an interesting one, and I think it sticks around for quite a while. So let's go in now for a third sip. Cheers. Okay, so on that one, that lemon zest citrus note really came forward again for me. It did border on that like Pledge Cleaner note, so I would say that third sip wasn't as pleasant as the first two for me. Finish wise though, it does circle back. It's got good spice that's lingering, and it's got this herbal freshness. Like I've had some rye bread with some, I don't know, maybe like basil or oregano on it. It's sort of that kind of quality in the mouth. And then there's this lingering bit of vanilla and toffee that sits along with that. There's an oaky presence underlying it all. I think that that double oak does come through, and I think that that caramel toffee and vanilla that I get sort of blooming on the back of the palate, those are the signs that this is a double oaked product. So it's sort of like the freshness of a rye whiskey with that citrus, herbalness, floral front palate, and then the double oak really shows itself with the mid to back palate, and then the finish is sort of a mix of both. I do think the finish lasts a considerably long time, given that it's only a 96 proof whiskey, so good on it for that. I will say overall, I struggle with that Pledge Cleaner note. I think it's a good whiskey. I think it could be a really great whiskey if I didn't feel like that note was keeping me from really enjoying it, and that just might be the way certain ryes hit my palate. Okay, so final thoughts here on Sagamore Spirit Double Oak Rye. I think I forgot to mention in the beginning that this is a bottle that I was able to get for right around 60 bucks. So at that price, I would say that this is one that I consider one bottle hutch worthy. I'm glad that I have a bottle, especially because it looks so dang beautiful. But I'm not looking to replace this one right away when I run out of this. It's a good whiskey to have around. It's an interesting one to taste. That double oak rye is sort of a rarity, so having one of those to offer is great. But for me, that pledge cleaner note sticks around a little bit too much. And with that, it's just hard for me to say that it's one that I always need to have on my shelves. If you're somebody who really likes double oaked products, and if you love rye whiskey, it's definitely one that you should go out and buy, and I'd recommend that you do that. It's full of flavor for sure, and it's a lingering, long, good sipping experience. For me, there's just one note in there that makes it a little bit tough to swallow. So put in the comments below what your experience is like with Sagamore Spirit Double Oak Rye. What's your experience with Sagamore Spirits overall? Do you like their whiskey? Do you like what they're doing? Any other products you'd recommend I go out and try? Let me know. Put those in the comments below. I think that about wraps up everything I have to say about Sagamore Spirit Double Oak Rye today. Thanks so much for joining me for this video. And until I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.